Hey guys, and welcome to Stormy Stories podcast. This is Veronica, and I'm here with another story. I had so many interesting conversations yesterday randomly with friends, and so I just wanted to base today in this podcast off of some of those conversations. People that you've known since you were a child or very young, you have these beautiful nostalgic conversations with them, and then you get off the phone and you kind of absorb that information and you go, wow, life is flying by. And I think the lesson in that is time will best us all. But with that being said, how do you keep believing in yourself over and over and over again? I think that one of the themes to this podcast for Stormy Stories is that these are the stories of a life that is being lived, that has been lived. And in my life, I've lived so many lives. I was a model. I am a mother. I was a very long time ago, a child. I'm a sister. I've been a lover. But all of those things, they come and they go in waves. And I don't know what the moon is to our life that brings the tides in or out. But what I do know is what we have to do is keep reinventing ourselves. I have reinvented myself so many times. So for example, when I was really young, when I was an undergrad, I wanted to be a journalist. I actually have a degree in journalism. And I just knew that is what I was going to do. That was who I was going to be. I was going to write and to define myself with words and storytelling. But then I got my first job offer for $18,000. And I was like, oh no, I'm not going to be poor my entire life. I've done that. I lived that part of my life already, being dirt poor. So I had to change completely what I thought was the course of my life and who I was. And my core principles didn't change, but I had to change my direction. That's when I started working for this wealth management company. I was a very young woman and I found myself working with some of the most well-known and wealthiest athletes in the country. And it was so insane because I would be standing in my tiny 2-bedroom apartment cooking the most, let's call it, economically responsible food one can purchase. And the next day I'd be standing in some guy's mansion it looked like a shopping mall. And a new Porsche would be getting offloaded off a truck. And I'd just be standing there pretending like I wasn't in awe, but I was about to shit my pants. So I kind of live with my both feet in two different worlds. I went home to my life, but I saw how very, very successful people lived. And it's not that I coveted that, but I thought, okay, these are the goals. That's how I want to live or what I want to attain. But life isn't that simple. You can't make up your mind I don't want to be poor anymore. You're still poor when you go home, but you're working and I get this sense of pride when I come home from a super long, hard days of work and I feel like I've accomplished something. That doesn't necessarily mean you made much money. And then as I got a little older, so I'd say my mid-20s, socioeconomically, things really hit this incline for me where everything was up, up, up. But what I've realized now looking back on those times, everything is it's like a heartbeat. I think our lives actually mimic heartbeats. There's spikes and there's valleys and there's peaks and there's lows. And there were times that I had more than what I knew what to do with. I didn't even know how to be wealthy. I still very much had a quote unquote normal mindset. for example, my baby brother, he was going off to school and he really needed a car. And so he called me. He said, "Can you help me rent a car?" And I'm thinking like, hey, I'm in control. I know what to do. And I go, "We're not going to rent a car. That's wasteful. We'll buy a car." And I like Googled some buy here, pay here lots in Miami. And long story short, I lost like $4,000 to some shady, shitty buy here, pay here lot for an older model Lexus before my assistant was like, "What are you doing, Veronica?" She called Lexus of Miami and faxed over some paperwork. And like in an hour, they called me and said, "Hey, have your brother come and pick up a brand new Lexus, no money down." And the car payment was like almost nothing. And it was like this perfect, gorgeous little car for him. And really, I started to think like your mindset has to change with where you are in life. I had a lot of carryover habits, but I think that's why I'm so resourceful today, because I know how to be super poor, but I also know how to manage lots of wealth. And so when I talk about failures, the failures I also now am starting to consider successes. So a few years ago, I opened a salon in Beverly Hills. It was such an amazing time working for myself for the first time really in my life in this brick and mortar, which meant it was like a physical manifestation of everything I wanted, my dreams, my goals, my hopes. I could see it, I could touch it, I could smell it. Everything could be cultivated exactly how I wanted it. But then to see that dream earn me money every single month. And when you open a business, any entrepreneur knows, like, you're terrified. And so every day I was terrified. Am I going to have a client? Am I going to have a customer? And slowly, and I do mean very slowly, that fear gives way to, how do I make more money? How do I become more successful? So I stopped being afraid that I'd make $1, because I'd be like, holy shit, I made $10,000 this month. Holy shit, I made $40,000 this month. Holy shit, you know what I mean? So that process, until it became consistent, I couldn't trust it. And you just have so much pride around this little thing, my business, that you literally created, almost like a child. It was almost like motherhood for me in a different form, to every single day grow and guide my business. And COVID came, and when I tell you it gutted me like a fish, I essentially lost everything I had worked for years. And I watched my little tiny business shrivel up like my lemon tree outside my house right now, because I forget to water it sometimes for weeks at a time, just shrivel up and die. And there was nothing I could do to resuscitate it at a certain point. And as devastating as that was for me, I can now look back at it and go, okay, that moment was to teach me. I was learning. I was learning that in order to succeed, you have to fail. You really have to get up. And as cliche as that might be, I literally, in those months after closing my salon in Beverly Hills, really focused on, what is this teaching me? And I'd play this Cardi B song, like, if you fall down 9 times, you get up 10. And I'm pretty sure that song was about like a stripper not giving up after a bad night. But I just applied what I could apply to my life. And so I went forward. And so I went on to work for a very good friend to help him. And, it was a wonderful experience. And I made the money that I needed to survive. And then I went on to do other job opportunities and to work with one of the largest companies, actually globally, in their diversity and inclusion sector for production. And I thought, oh my God, this is so amazing. Like, I was doing better than I had ever done in my life, financially, independently. And then it just like literally just stopped. It hit a brick wall. It went away. No explanation. And so you're sitting there going, What am I doing wrong? And I had so many nights where I would literally cry. I would cry and talk to God and say, what have I done in my life that I deserve like all of these things? Like nothing seems to be working. Like I'm a good person. I helped an old lady across the street today. I made sure my house was perfectly clean and I provided a wonderful environment for my children and I clipped my dead ends and I gave my energy to a friend who needed me even though I didn't have it. And then as far as my situation, like nothing seems to work. And you really have to kind of take a step back. And I think I was so fortunate that like I do have such a wonderful tribe. My brother Jordan, my brother Claude, the other people who know who they are that love me unconditionally. And I really was able to just kind of sit in peace for a while and go, money is not the measure of success. The measure of success is the ability to every day rework your life. So, yeah, in undergrad, I thought I was going to be a journalist. In undergrad, I thought I could take my passion for words and earn a living with that. But life showed me maybe that's not your immediate path forward. And I just find it like really a full circle to sit and do a podcast where I'm using my words 20 years after I graduated from undergrad in a passionate, thoughtful way, but talking about all of those other roads that led me right back to what I thought I was going to do or what I thought I was capable of. And all of those lives in between, whether I was on a runway and I was starving. When I say starving, honey, I mean like rib cage showing and still being told I was too big. When I think about the pathway of, oh, I's married now, daddy, and that kind of being like a low-key disaster. Starting my salon, losing my salon, going on to reality TV, seeing that like perhaps that wasn't for me either. And really needing to try motherhood in so many different ways, meaning my life has been a series of constant failures. And I'm so thankful for that because every time I fail, I can realize what I did right. I can take my lesson from that failure and I get to move forward and go, what am I capable of? What am I made of? And what do I need to do to protect myself and provide for myself and go forward in a way that I'm just a little wiser and eventually I become happier. So like, I think it's really important as women, or if you're a mother, to always be recentering. Always be recentering. Because I really can't put my finger on how many lives I've managed to pack into these few decades I've been on the planet, but I'm so thankful. I am unequivocally thankful, and I wouldn't change a thing. Nobody wants to be hurt. We all want to be happy constantly, but I think that's a figment of the imagination. No one is happy all the time. And those small failures or those massive failures are the moments that we kind of sit in peace and still and we're able to evaluate what really matters. And for me, what I found, and I'm sure you'll be able to explore yourself, whoever's listening, and identify within yourself what really matters to you. For me, my independence is what matters. I realize I only like working for myself. I don't do well in a tightly held structure. Now, I like providing structure for my family. I like my children to do the same things at the same time every day. I like their routines. It gives me peace. Dinner is at 6:00. Practice is at, this time. We walk out the door at this time for school. I like to provide structure to them, but I flourish when I am able to, on a daily basis, determine all of my what, when, where, hows. And so a lifetime of successes and failures led me to the conclusion of how Veronica is the happiest, best version of herself. It's not trapped at a desk all day. It's not taking marching orders. Some people are great at that. Some people enjoy that. I wither. I really like paperwork. I can sit and do paperwork for hours. I identified that, I don't know, I get like this sick enjoyment out of doing stacks and stacks of paperwork. However, I have to provide myself with the when, where, whys, and hows. And so this entire, monologue is really about identifying what makes you happy. And that can be the most frustrating journey, but it's going to be the most fruitful journey. You have to fail so that you can succeed. You have to fail so that you can identify where you can thrive. And when you identify where you thrive and how you thrive, it can be very unorthodox, kind of like my life, but it is the best way for me to live. So ask yourself, what is the best way for me to live? I'm all about interpersonal conversations these days. I talk to myself so much, I probably should slow down. But the conversations you have with yourself are the most important. Nobody should love and care about you as much as you. So yeah, I reach out to friends. I talk to, my sisters from time to time. But the person that holds me up and the person that I trust the most these days is me. Because I've been with me the whole time. I am the main character because I'm trapped in my life. Who else would be the main character in my story? I have been there when I failed, when I succeeded, when I overstepped, when I had to deal with all of the consequences, or when the eagle just took off to the sun and it was the most amazing thing ever. Me. I know every detail. I was there. I trust me. And like my late, great baby sister Nicole said one time, I forgive me. That is so important. So for all of my mistakes, I forgive me. For all of my successes, I want to thank me. And I trust no one, and I mean no one on this planet like I trust myself. Trust yourself. You've been there the whole damn time. You are the one that knows you need to do your laundry right now. You are the one that knows you need to stop what you're doing and file your taxes before the IRS comes and starts looking for you. You're the one that knows every single detail of your life. The good, the bad, the ugly, not the bullshit you tell people, what you show people. You know everything about you. So trust you and look at those failures and find the success and the new pathway forward. Because we must always walk forward. Always. I hope you've enjoyed this episode of Stormy Stories. I wanted to keep it short because I think encouragement, love, and positivity, it doesn't have to be like being trapped at church. My God, my mom used to trap me at church for hours and hours and hours on Sunday. I got the message, but it wasn't a spoonful of sugar. It was like a pot of lima beans. It was a lot to get through. Love yourself, trust yourself. Look at your failures. Determine your best way for success. You know exactly what you need to do. Go do it. Thanks for listening. We'll talk soon.